They tell you not to trust a man with prison tattoos. They tell you to run from someone who's learned to survive behind bars. But no one tells you what to do when that same man catches you mid-fall and refuses to let you hit the ground. I was barely conscious when I felt his arms. Strong, steady, covered in ink that told stories I didn't know yet. When I opened my eyes, there he was. Bald head, a scar cutting through his eyebrow, hands that had seen violence but held me like I was made of glass. He didn't let go. Not when I said I was fine. Not when I tried to walk away. He looked at me with eyes that had seen too much darkness and said, "Promise me you'll see me again." I should have said no. I should have been afraid. But the moment I nodded, I stopped being the girl who played it safe. And he stopped being just another ex-con everyone warned me about. You will feel so many emotions in this story of second chances and forbidden love. Please support us by clicking subscribe to the channel. I used to think I knew what falling felt like. A failed relationship, a missed deadline, the slow, creeping realization that you're not where you thought you'd be at 28. But I didn't know. Not really. Not until that Thursday morning at the gym when my body gave out and gravity took over, and for one terrible second, I understood what it meant to have no control. My name is Emma Carter. I'm a graphic designer in Portland, Oregon. I survive on iced coffee, too many late nights staring at Photoshop layers, and the kind of optimism that makes you think you can run 5 miles on 3 hours of sleep and an empty stomach. That morning, I thought I could push through. I thought I was stronger than my body's warning signs. The treadmill blurred first. Then the fluorescent light started to strobe. I felt my legs go weak, my vision tunneling into a pinpoint of white noise and vertigo. I remember thinking, absurdly, that I was going to ruin someone's morning by collapsing in the cardio section. But I never hit the ground. Strong arms caught me mid-fall, lowered me with a gentleness that didn't match their strength, and a voice, deep, calm, commanding, cut through the chaos around me. Back up. Give her space. Someone get water. It wasn't a request. It was an order. And everyone listened. When I opened my eyes, he was there, kneeling beside me. A man with a shaved head that gleamed under the gym lights. Tattoos crawling up his neck and disappearing under his tank top. A scar cutting through his left eyebrow like a question mark. His hands were on my shoulders, steadying me. And I noticed things I shouldn't have noticed in that moment. How careful his grip was. How his knuckles were scarred. How his eyes were this impossible shade of gray that looked like storm clouds over the Pacific. "You with me?" he asked. I nodded, my throat too dry to speak. "Good. Don't try to stand yet. Just breathe." I wanted to argue. I wanted to say I was fine, that I didn't need help, that this was embarrassing enough without a stranger hovering over me like I was made of glass. But the words wouldn't come, and he didn't move. Someone handed him a water bottle. He opened it for me, held it steady while I drank, his other hand still on my shoulder. Around us, the gym resumed its rhythm. Treadmills humming, weights clanking, the soundtrack of people pretending they hadn't just watched me almost crack my skull open. "What's your name?" he asked. "Emma." "Emma, I'm Caleb. I'm going to help you to the locker room, okay? Then I'm walking you to your car." "I'm fine," I said, finally finding my voice. "Really? Thank you, but you're not fine." His tone wasn't harsh. It was certain. "You almost went face first into a treadmill moving at 7 miles an hour. You're dizzy, you're pale, and you're about 5 seconds from trying to convince yourself this didn't happen." He was right. I hated that he was right. He walked me to the locker room, one hand hovering near my elbow like he expected me to collapse again. He waited outside while I splashed cold water on my face and stared at my reflection, cheeks flushed, eyes wide, hands trembling. When I came out, he was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, watching the hallway like he was guarding something. He walked me to my car in the parking lot. I tried to thank him and leave. He stood in front of my driver's side door and didn't move. "You're not driving like this," he said. "I'm fine." "You're not, and you're not going home alone." I should have been annoyed. I should have told him to back off, that I didn't need a bodyguard, that this was crossing a line, but something in his voice stopped me. It wasn't controlling, it was protective, and I hadn't felt protected in a long time. "Why do you even care?" I asked. He looked at me for a long moment, long enough that I noticed the way his jaw tightened, the way his eyes held something heavy and unspoken. Then he said, "Because no one caught me when I fell." He pulled a torn piece of gym receipt from his pocket, wrote a number on it with a pen he borrowed from a woman walking by, and pressed it into my palm. "Text me when you get home," he said, "or I'll assume you passed out on the highway." I saved his number as Gym Guy. That night, after a dinner I couldn't taste and a shower that didn't wash away the day, I heard footsteps outside my apartment. Heavy. Deliberate. I looked through the peephole, and my breath caught. He was standing across the street under the streetlight, arms crossed, watching my building. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't lurking. He was just there, making sure I got home safe. And I realized, standing there in my dark apartment with my phone in my hand, that I had two choices. I could be afraid, or I could text him. I texted him, "I'm home. You can go now." 3 dots appeared immediately. Then his reply, "Good. Lock your door." Deadbolt 2. I did, and I didn't know why, but I felt safer than I had in years. His name was Caleb. I learned that 3 days later when he walked into the coffee shop where I worked part-time on weekends, the bell above the door chimed, and I looked up from the espresso machine to see him standing there in a gray hoodie and jeans, hands in his pockets, eyes scanning the room before they landed on me. He didn't look surprised to see me, and that should have been my first clue. "Emma," he said, like we'd planned this. "Caleb," I replied, wiping my hands on my apron. "What are you doing here?" "Coffee." He walked to the counter, ordered black coffee, no sugar, no cream, just black, and sat in the corner booth by the window, the one with a clear view of the entire shop, the one where his back was to the wall. He stayed until my shift ended at 2. When I clocked out and grabbed my bag, he was waiting by the door. "You walking or driving?" he asked. "Walking. It's 4 blocks. I'll walk with you. You don't have to." "I know." And that was it. No argument, no negotiation. He just fell into step beside me, matching my pace, his presence solid and unshakable. We didn't talk much. He asked if I felt better. I said yes. He asked if I'd eaten breakfast that morning. I said yes, even though it was a lie. He looked at me like he knew, but he didn't push. When we reached my building, he waited until I was inside before he left. I watched him through the lobby window, walking down the street with his hands in his pockets, shoulders slightly hunched against the autumn wind. Over the next 2 weeks, he kept appearing. At the bus stop near my apartment on Tuesday mornings. Outside the gym on Thursday evenings. Once at the grocery store when my car wouldn't start and he appeared out of nowhere with jumper cables, asking no questions, just popping my hood and fixing it like it was the most natural thing in the world. He fixed the wobbly wheel on my bike. He carried my design portfolio when I dropped it in the rain and pages scattered across the sidewalk. He warned me about a guy at the gym who'd been watching me too closely. And the next day, that guy switched to a different gym. I should have been creeped out. I should have asked how he always knew where I'd be. But I wasn't. And I didn't. Because every time he showed up, I felt something I hadn't felt since before my last relationship imploded. Safe. There was something about Caleb. Something careful, deliberate. Like every word he said had been weighed and measured before it left his mouth. He didn't talk about family. He didn't talk about friends. And when I asked what he did for work, he said, "I'm between things, trying to rebuild." "Rebuild what?" I asked. "Everything." He didn't elaborate, and I didn't push. But I noticed things. The way people looked at him when we walked down the street, with fear, with suspicion, with the kind of judgment that makes you cross to the other side of the sidewalk. The way he never relaxed, even when he smiled. The tattoos that covered his arms and neck, a clock with no hands on his forearm, barbed wire wrapped around his bicep, names I didn't recognize inked across his knuckles in faded script. And I noticed the way he watched everything. The exits. The people. The cars parked too long in the same spot. Like he was always calculating, always prepared for something to go wrong. My coworker Jenna noticed too. "Who's the guy?" she asked one Saturday, nodding toward Caleb in the corner booth. "A friend. A friend who looks like he just got out of..." She stopped herself. "Never mind." But I heard what she didn't say, and it planted a seed I tried to ignore. Then Derek showed up. My ex-boyfriend, the one who drained my savings, cheated on me with his coworker, and then blamed me for not being supportive enough when I found out. The one I'd finally kicked out 6 months ago after 2 years of gaslighting and broken promises. He came to my apartment on a Wednesday night, drunk and pounding on the door, screaming that I owed him money, that I'd stolen from him, that I was a selfish bitch who ruined his life. I called the police. They said they'd send someone. No one came. I texted Caleb. He was there in 8 minutes. I don't know what he said to Derek in the hallway. I don't know what he did. But Derek left, and he didn't come back that night. Caleb stayed outside my door until sunrise, sitting in the hallway with his back against the wall, texting me every hour to make sure I was okay. The next morning, Jenna pulled me aside at work. Her face was pale, her voice low and urgent. "Emma, do you know who that guy is? The bald one with the tattoos?" My stomach dropped. "What about him?" She leaned closer, glancing around like she was afraid someone would hear. "He just got out of prison. 7 years. Everyone knows." The world tilted. The espresso machine hissed. Someone laughed at a table behind us, and all I could think was, 7 years. Prison. Caleb. What did he do? I whispered. Jenna shook her head. "I don't know. But Emma, people like that don't change. You need to stay away from him." I nodded. Said I would. Said thank you for telling me. But that night, when I got home and saw Caleb standing across the street again, watching my building with his arms crossed and his jaw set, I didn't feel afraid. I felt like I'd been lied to. By him. Or by everyone else. And I needed to know which. I found him in the parking lot after my shift ended on Friday. He was leaning against his truck, an old Ford with rust spots and a dent in the passenger door, scrolling through his phone like he had all the time in the world, like he hadn't been waiting for me. My hands were shaking. I'd rehearsed this conversation a dozen times in my head. But now that he was standing there, solid and real, the words felt like glass in my throat. Caleb. He looked up, saw my face, and I watched something shift in his expression. Not fear, not guilt. Resignation. "You found out?" he said. Not a question, a statement. "Is it true?" My voice cracked. "Were you in prison?" He pocketed his phone, straightened, met my eyes without flinching. "Yes." The word hung between us like smoke. 7 years, I said. 7 years. "What did you do?" He didn't look away, didn't soften it, just told me the truth in that calm, measured voice that made everything sound like a fact instead of a confession. "Armed robbery. I was 22, broke, desperate. My mom was dying and couldn't afford her medication. I thought I could fix it. I walked into a convenience store with a gun I didn't even know how to use and demanded the cash from the register. I felt like the ground was dissolving under my feet. Did you hurt anyone?" "No." His jaw tightened. "But I scared them. The clerk was a woman in her 50s. She had a daughter my age. She cried the whole time. And I made her do that. So no, I didn't pull the trigger, but I hurt her anyway." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the afternoon sun. "What happened?" "I got caught 2 blocks away. The gun wasn't even loaded. Didn't matter. Judge gave me 10 years. I served 7. Got out 8 months ago on good behavior." He paused, his eyes searching my face. "I did my time, Emma. I learned to read. Actually read. Not just get by. Got my GED. Stayed out of trouble. Took every class they offered. Wrote letters to that woman, apologizing. She never wrote back. I don't blame her. Why didn't you tell me? Because you looked at me like I was a person." His voice was quiet now, almost fragile. Not a convict, not a statistic. Just a man. And I hadn't felt like that in 8 years. I didn't want to lose it. I should have been angry. I should have felt betrayed. But all I felt was this terrible, aching sadness for the boy he'd been and the man he was trying to become. "I understand if you want me gone," he said, taking a step back toward his truck. "I won't bother you again. I wanted to make sure you were safe. That's all." "Wait." He stopped. I took a breath, forcing the words out past the knot in my chest. "Did you mean it? What you said about rebuilding?" "Every word. And you're not that person anymore." "I'm trying not to be." He looked down at his hands, those scarred, careful hands. "Every single day, I'm trying, but the world doesn't forget, and I don't blame them." I nodded slowly. my mind racing. My friends would say I was insane. My mother would disown me. Every smart, rational part of me screamed to walk away. But when I looked at him, really looked at him, I didn't see a monster. I saw someone who'd made a terrible mistake and spent 7 years paying for it. Someone who caught me when I fell and didn't ask for anything in return. Thank you, I said finally. For being honest. I don't lie anymore, he said. I can't afford to. Over the next 3 days, I couldn't stop thinking about him. About the way he'd told me the truth without excuses. About the tattoos I now understood were prison tattoos. The clock with no hands meaning time served. The names of people he'd lost. The barbed wire that marked him as someone who'd survived. My best friend Maya told me I was throwing my life away. My mother called me naive and reckless. Even Jenna, who'd warned me, said, "Emma, I'm worried about you." But Derek didn't stop. He kept showing up. At my apartment, at the coffee shop, outside my gym, drunk, angry, screaming that I'd ruined his life, that I owed him, that he'd make me pay. I filed a police report. They said they'd look into it. Nothing happened. Then I got a text from an unknown number at 2 a.m. "You think your ex is your only problem? You have no idea who you're dealing with? Watch your back." I stared at my phone, my heart hammering. Then I did the only thing that made sense. I called Caleb. He answered on the first ring, voice alert like he hadn't been sleeping. "Emma, I need your help." My voice was shaking. "And I need you to be honest. Can you protect me without becoming the person you used to be?" Silence. Then, "I'll be there in 10 minutes. Pack a bag." Caleb showed up in 9 minutes. I counted. I was standing in my living room with a backpack half packed, hands trembling, when I heard his knock, 3 solid raps, then his voice through the door. "Emma, it's me." I opened it. He stood there in a black jacket and jeans, keys in one hand, his eyes doing that thing where they scanned everything, my face, the hallway behind me, the apartment over my shoulder, looking for threats I couldn't see. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, even though it was a lie. "Show me the text." I handed him my phone, watched his jaw tighten as he read it. Then he looked up, and his voice was calm, controlled, but there was steel underneath. "You're not staying here tonight. Grab your bag. We're leaving." "Where are we going?" "My place. It's safe." I wanted to argue, wanted to say I could handle this, that I didn't need to run. But the truth was, I was terrified, and he was the only person who'd actually shown up when I needed help. We drove in silence through empty Portland streets, streetlights painting everything orange and shadow. He kept checking his mirrors. I kept checking my phone, waiting for another text that didn't come. His apartment was across town in a building that had seen better decades. 3rd floor, no elevator. He unlocked 3 separate locks on his door before pushing it open and stepping inside first, flipping on lights, checking corners like he expected someone to be waiting. The space was small, sparse, a mattress on the floor with military-precise corners, a folding table, a single chair, a hot plate on the kitchen counter, stacks of books against one wall, thick ones, real ones, with cracked spines and dog-eared pages, no TV, no decorations, nothing that wasn't essential. "You can have the bed," he said, setting my bag down. "I'll take the floor." That's ridiculous. I've slept on concrete for 7 years. This is luxury. He said it without bitterness. Just fact. I looked around at this life he'd built from nothing, this careful, humble existence, and something in my chest cracked open. "Caleb, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do." He met my eyes. "Someone threatened you. That means you're not safe. And I'm not letting anything happen to you." "Why?" The word came out sharper than I meant. "Why do you care this much? You barely know me." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he sat down in the single chair, elbows on his knees, hands clasped together. "Because when I caught you at the gym, you looked at me like I was a person, not a threat, not something to avoid, just a man who helped you." He paused. "I hadn't felt human in 8 years, Emma. And you gave that back to me in one look. So yeah, I care." I sank onto the edge of the mattress, suddenly exhausted. "I don't know what to do. We figure it out. Together." He stood, grabbed a bottle of water from the counter, handed it to me. But first, you sleep, I'll keep watch. You can't stay awake all night. I've done worse, I wanted to argue. But the look on his face told me I'd lose, so I slept, or tried to. And when I woke up at 3 in the morning, disoriented and thirsty, I found him sitting by the window, silhouette outlined in streetlight, watching the parking lot below. Caleb? He turned. You okay? Can't sleep. Me neither. He smiled. Small, self-deprecating. Old habits. I got up, grabbed the blanket from the bed, and sat down on the floor next to his chair. He looked at me, surprised. You should rest. So should you. I'm fine. You're not. I pulled my knees to my chest. Talk to me. Tell me something real. He was quiet. Then, what do you want to know? What was it like? Prison. Most people would have shut down. Change the subject. But Caleb didn't lie, and he didn't hide. He just told me the truth. Loud? He said finally. Even when it's quiet, it's loud. You hear everything. People yelling, crying, fighting, breaking. You hear men losing their minds one cell at a time. And the silence is worse because that's when you're alone with what you did. How did you survive? Books, routines, small goals. I read everything I could get my hands on. Classics, science, history, philosophy. I figured if I was going to lose 7 years of my life, I'd at least use them to become someone better than the kid who walked in. He looked down at his hands. I wrote letters. To the woman I scared. To my mom before she died. To the person I wanted to be when I got out. I don't know if it worked. But I tried. It worked, I said quietly. He looked at me. How do you know? Because you're here, protecting someone you barely know. Not because you have to. Because you choose to. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or gratitude, or something deeper I couldn't name. He reached out slowly, carefully, like he was afraid I'd pull away. His hand covered mine. Rough skin, scars across the knuckles, warmth. I didn't pull away. We sat like that until the sun started to rise, painting his small apartment in shades of gold. And for the first time since Derek started his campaign of terror, I felt safe. Then someone knocked on the door. 3 hard bangs. Aggressive. Wrong. Caleb's entire body went rigid. He was on his feet in half a second, moving between me and the door, his hand going to his pocket where I saw, just for a moment, the outline of something I hoped wasn't what I thought it was. He looked through the peephole, and his face went pale. Stay here, he said, voice low and sharp. Don't come out. Don't make a sound. Caleb. Emma, please. He opened the door just enough to step into the hallway, pulling it closed behind him. I heard voices, his calm and controlled, and another man's, rough and familiar in a way that made my skin crawl. Thought you could just disappear, huh? The other voice said. Thought you could start over and forget what you owe. I don't owe you anything, Marcus. I did my time. We're done. We're done when I say we're done, and right now, I need a favor. My heart stopped. Through the crack in the door, I heard Caleb say, I'm not doing this. I'm clean. I'm staying clean. And Marcus laughed, low, dangerous, promise wrapped in threat. Then I guess your pretty girlfriend becomes my problem. I pressed myself against the wall beside the door, heart hammering so hard I thought they'd hear it through the wood. Caleb's voice was steady, controlled, but I heard the edge underneath, the thing he was holding back. You touch her, he said quietly, and you'll regret it. Marcus laughed again. There's the Caleb I remember. The one who broke a man's jaw for looking at him wrong. Thought you were reformed now. I am. Then prove it. Do this one job. Break into the Maxwell warehouse on Tuesday. Security codes are the same. Cameras have a blind spot on the east side. In and out, 20 minutes. We split the electronics 50-50. Just like old times. No. No. Marcus's voice dropped, turned cold. You think you get to just walk away? You think 7 years erases what you owe? I kept you alive in there, Caleb. When those Aryan Brotherhood boys wanted your head, who stood between you and them? Silence. That's what I thought. I heard footsteps, someone moving closer. You've got 48 hours to decide. Do the job, or I make sure your girl learns what happens to people who get in my way. Marcus, 48 hours, more footsteps. retreating. Then the stairwell door slammed. The apartment door opened. Caleb stepped inside, locked all 3 locks, and leaned his forehead against the wood. His shoulders were rigid, his breathing carefully controlled. Caleb? He didn't turn around. You heard? Most of it. I moved closer, careful, like approaching something wounded. Who is he? My former cellmate. His voice was flat, dead. He protected me inside, made sure I survived. And now he thinks I owe him. What happens if you say no? He comes after you. He finally turned, and his eyes were darker than I'd ever seen them. He'll hurt you to get to me. That's how men like Marcus operate. They find what you care about and they destroy it. I wrapped my arms around myself. And if you do the job, I violate parole, get caught, go back for another 5 to 10 years. He pushed off the door, ran a hand over his head. There's no good choice here, Emma. There's just bad and worse. What if we go to the police? Marcus has connections, dirty cops on his payroll. We go to them, and within 24 hours, someone plants drugs in my apartment and calls my parole officer. I'm back inside before I can blink. He looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen before. Fear. Not for himself. For me. I brought this to your door. This is my fault. No. I crossed the room, stood in front of him. Derek brought this to my door first. You just tried to help. And look where that got you. Safer than I've been in months. He shook his head, but didn't argue. The next 2 days felt like standing on a tightrope over broken glass. Caleb barely slept. He walked me everywhere, to work, to the coffee shop, back to his apartment. He checked corners, watched cars, positioned himself between me and every potential threat. Meanwhile, Derek escalated. He showed up at the coffee shop on Saturday, drunk at 11 in the morning, screaming that I was a whore who'd ruined his life. Jenna called the police. They came 2 hours later, by which time Derek was gone. The officer took a statement, said they'd look into it, and left. Derek sent texts. You think you're safe with that convict? You're pathetic. You're trash. You deserve what's coming. He posted on social media. Lies about me stealing from him. Sleeping with half of Portland. Being mentally unstable. Tagged my employer. Tagged my mother. My boss pulled me aside Monday morning. Emma, I don't know what's happening in your personal life, but it's affecting the shop. Customers are asking questions. I need you to handle this. I wanted to scream that I was trying, that I'd filed reports, changed my number twice, blocked him everywhere. But it didn't matter. Derek was relentless, and the system didn't care. My best friend Maya stopped answering my calls. She'd seen Derek's posts, believed them. My mother left a voicemail. If you stay with that man, that criminal, don't come to me when it all falls apart. I raised you better than this. I was losing everything. My reputation, my friendships, my family, and the only person who stood by me was the one everyone told me to fear. That night, I came back to Caleb's apartment after my shift. He was at the table, staring at his phone, jaw tight. What's wrong? He looked up. Marcus called, says he needs an answer by midnight. Do the job, or... He stopped. Or what? He sent me photos. Caleb turned his phone around. My stomach dropped. Pictures of me. Outside the coffee shop. Getting on the bus. Walking into Caleb's building. Taken from across the street. Zoomed in. Invasive and threatening. The caption. Pretty thing. Be a shame if something happened to her. I sat down hard. Legs suddenly weak. Caleb was across the table in a heartbeat, kneeling beside my chair. I'm not going to let him touch you. I swear to God, Emma. What are you going to do? His jaw tightened. What I have to... No! I grabbed his hand. If you do this job, you go back to prison. Everything you've built means nothing if you're dead. Caleb, I can't lose you. His voice cracked, just slightly. I won't. We sat in his small apartment, the weight of impossible choices pressing down on us. Outside, Portland moved on, people living normal lives with normal problems. And inside, we tried to figure out how to survive. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened the text and my blood turned to ice. Since your boyfriend won't play nice, guess I'll come introduce myself. See you soon, Emma. Attached was a photo, not of me, of my apartment building, taken tonight, timestamp 42 minutes ago. I looked at Caleb. His face had gone deadly still. He was at my apartment. When? Less than an hour ago. Caleb stood, grabbed his keys. We need to go, now. Why? He's not coming after you there. Caleb's voice was sharp, urgent. He's going after you here. This address isn't listed anywhere. Which means he followed us. Which means he knows exactly where you are right now. The lights went out. All of them. The apartment, the hallway, the entire building plunged into darkness. And in that darkness, I heard it. Footsteps on the stairs, coming up, slow, deliberate, hunting. Caleb moved in the dark like he'd been trained for it. His hand found mine, steady, certain, and he pulled me toward the window, away from the door. I heard him sliding something open, felt the cool night air rush in. Fire escape, he whispered against my ear. Stay behind me, don't make a sound. The footsteps stopped outside the door. 3 locks stood between us and whoever was on the other side. 3 locks Caleb had installed himself. 3 locks that suddenly felt like tissue paper. He guided me through the window onto the metal grating. Portland stretched out below us, 3 stories of empty air and rust-stained metal. My hands shook as I gripped the railing. Inside, I heard the first lock break, the sound of splintering wood. Caleb was behind me now, one hand on my waist, the other holding something I couldn't see but could feel the weight of. Metal, cold, dangerous. The thing he'd carried in his pocket. The thing I'd hoped wasn't real. Down, he breathed. Fast as you can. Don't look back. I climbed, feet finding holds, hands scraping against rust. My design portfolio life hadn't prepared me for this, for fire escapes and break-ins and men who hunted in the dark. Behind us, the apartment door crashed open. Run, Caleb said. Not a whisper anymore, a command. We hit the alley running. Caleb's truck was 2 blocks away. He had his keys out, was unlocking it before we even reached it, pushing me into the passenger seat and peeling out before my door was fully closed. What was that? My voice was shaking. What just happened? Marcus making a point. Caleb's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, showing me what he can do, where he can reach. We need to call the police. And tell them what? That my ex-cellmate broke into my apartment. They'll run my name, see my record, and decide I'm involved in whatever he's planning. He took a corner too fast. We're on our own. We drove in silence to a motel on the edge of the city, the kind with hourly rates and neon signs and people who didn't ask questions. Caleb paid cash. We climbed stairs that smelled like cigarettes and regret. Inside the room, he locked the door, wedged a chair under the handle, and finally let himself breathe. I sat on the edge of the bed, adrenaline draining away, leaving me hollow and shaking. This is insane. We can't just run forever. I know. So what do? He stood by the window, watching the parking lot through a gap in the curtains. I handle it. Handle it how? The way I know how. He didn't look at me. I find Marcus. I end this. Caleb, no. What choice do I have, Emma? He spun around, and for the first time, I saw him lose control. Not violently, but the mask cracked. He's not going to stop. He'll keep coming. He'll hurt you. He'll hurt anyone I care about until I do what he wants or until I make him stop. His voice dropped. And I won't let him hurt you. If you go after him, you're breaking parole. You'll go back to prison. Better me than you dead. The words hung between us like a blade. I stood up, crossed to him, made him look at me. There has to be another way. There isn't. Then we find one. Before he could argue, his phone rang. He looked at the screen, jaw tightening. It's my parole officer. He answered. Put it on speaker. Mr. Brennan, this is Officer Williams. I need you to come into the office first thing tomorrow morning. We've had some allegations about your conduct. Caleb's face went expressionless. What allegations? Association with known criminals. Involvement in planning illegal activities. A concerned citizen called it in. Williams's voice was cold, bureaucratic. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., don't be late. The line went dead. I felt the floor drop out from under me. Marcus. Yeah. Caleb pocketed his phone. He's making sure I can't run, can't hide. Either I do the job, or he makes sure I go back anyway. We fight it. We tell them the truth. The truth? Caleb laughed. Bitter, hollow. I'm a convicted felon, 8 months out, and my ex-cellmate is threatening me. Who do you think they'll believe? I didn't have an answer. That night, neither of us slept. We sat on opposite beds in a motel room that smelled like industrial cleaner and defeat, and we tried to figure out how to survive. At 6 a.m., Caleb showered, put on clean clothes, and prepared to walk into the parole office. I'm coming with you, I said. Emma, I'm not letting you do this alone. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. The parole office was gray walls and fluorescent lights and the smell of stale coffee. Officer Williams was waiting. 50s, ex-military posture, eyes that had seen every lie and excuse. Mr. Brennan, Miss Carter, Emma Carter. I stepped forward before Caleb could stop me. I need to tell you what's actually happening. Williams gestured to chairs. We sat. I told him everything. About Marcus, the threats, the break-in, the warehouse job, the photos. I showed him my phone, the text from Derek, the pictures Marcus sent, the timeline of escalation. Caleb sat silent beside me, hands folded, face unreadable. When I finished, Williams leaned back. That's quite a story, Miss Carter. It's the truth. Maybe not. He looked at Caleb. What I know for certain is that you've been seen with Marcus Holloway at least 3 times in the past week. You were photographed outside a known criminal hangout, and someone called in a tip that you're planning a B&E. Someone being Marcus? Caleb said quietly. Setting me up. Or telling the truth. Williams pulled out a folder, slid it across the desk. These are the conditions of your parole. Any violation, any association with known felons, any criminal activity, any behavior that suggests you're a risk to society, and you're back inside. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Then here's what's going to happen. I'm giving you a warning. 1. You stay away from Marcus Holloway. You stay away from any situations that could be construed as criminal activity. And if I hear your name again in any context that isn't you showing up for your check-ins, you're done. Are we clear? Crystal? Williams looked at me. Miss Carter, I appreciate your faith in Mr. Brennan, but men like him don't change. They just get better at hiding what they are. My hands clenched into fists. You're wrong. Am I? He stood, gestured to the door. Time will tell. We left the office in silence. Walked to Caleb's truck. Sat in the parking lot as the morning sun climbed higher. He doesn't believe you, I said finally. No. So what now? Caleb started the engine. Now I do what Marcus wants. Or I lose everything anyway. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me... Hello? A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. Is this Emma Carter? Yes. Who's this? You don't know me, but we need to talk. It's about Caleb Brennan and Marcus Holloway. She paused. Meet me at Riverside Park in an hour. Come alone. Don't tell Caleb. Why would I? Because Marcus isn't the only person from his past who needs him. And if you want to save him, you need to hear what I have to say. The line went dead. I looked at Caleb. At this man who'd caught me when I fell. Who'd protected me. Who was about to sacrifice everything because I'd said yes to coffee and let him into my life. And I made a choice. Drop me at my apartment, I said. I need to pick up some things. He nodded. Didn't question it. When he dropped me off, I watched him drive away. Then I called a rideshare to Riverside Park to meet a stranger who claimed she could save him or destroy us both. The woman was waiting on a bench near the water, wearing a navy pea coat and sunglasses even though the sky was overcast. Mid-40s, dark hair pulled back, the kind of posture that said law enforcement or military or something that required control. She didn't stand when I approached, just gestured to the empty space beside her. Emma Carter? That's me. I sat, keeping distance between us. Who are you? Detective Sarah Moss, Portland PD, retired. She pulled off her sunglasses, and I saw tired eyes that had seen too much. I worked Caleb Brennan's case 9 years ago. I was the one who arrested him. My stomach twisted. Why are you here? Because Marcus Holloway is playing a game, and you and Caleb are the pieces. She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo. Marcus, younger, meaner looking, standing with two other men outside what looked like a warehouse. Marcus has been running an operation out of Portland for 15 years. Theft, fencing, drug distribution on the side. He's smart, careful. We've never been able to make anything stick. What does this have to do with Caleb? Caleb was one of his recruits, young, desperate, easy to manipulate. Marcus set up the convenience store job, gave Caleb the gun, the location, the timing, then tipped us off. Caleb went to prison. Marcus walked free. She pocketed her phone. He's done it before. Uses young men as disposable assets, then discards them when they're no longer useful. I felt sick. So Caleb was set up. Partially. He still made the choice to walk into that store. But Marcus stacked the deck. Moss leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Now Marcus wants Caleb to do another job. The Maxwell warehouse. Only this time, it's a trap. The warehouse owner is in on it. He's got cameras recording everything. Security ready to call the cops the second Caleb shows up. Marcus gets his fall guy. Caleb goes back to prison. Marcus continues operating. Why are you telling me this? Because I've been watching Marcus for 9 years, waiting for him to slip up, and this might be my chance. She looked at me directly. But I need Caleb's cooperation. I need him to wear a wire, meet with Marcus, get him to admit on record what he's planning. Give me enough to bring him down. Caleb will never agree to that. If Marcus finds out, Marcus will kill him. I know. Moss's expression softened slightly. But if Caleb doesn't do something, he's going back to prison anyway. Either for the warehouse job, or because Marcus will plant evidence. This way, at least there's a chance. I stood up, pacing, mind racing. How do I know you're telling the truth? How do I know this isn't another trap? She pulled out a badge, retired, but official, and a business card with a number. Call Portland PD. Ask about me. Check my credentials. Then decide. I took the card. And if I say yes, if Caleb agrees, then we set it up for tomorrow night. Marcus is expecting an answer by midnight tonight anyway. Caleb tells him yes, wears the wire, gets Marcus to talk. We move in. She stood. But Emma, this is dangerous. If Marcus suspects anything, he won't hesitate to hurt Caleb. Or you. He's already trying to hurt us. Fair point. I looked out at the river, gray and cold under the November sky. Thought about Caleb in that parole office, told he was one mistake away from losing everything. Thought about Marcus hunting us in the dark. Thought about the choice between running forever or fighting back. I'll talk to him, I said. Moss handed me a phone number. You have until 8 tonight to decide. After that, the window closes. She walked away, leaving me alone by the water. I called Caleb. He answered immediately. Emma, where are you? I went back to the apartment and I'm at Riverside Park. I need you to come here. Now. And I need you to listen to everything I have to say before you react. Silence. Then, I'm on my way. 20 minutes later, I told him everything. About Detective Moss. About Marcus's setup. About the wire and the chance, slim, dangerous, maybe impossible, to end this. Caleb listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. He'll kill me, he said finally. If he finds the wire, I know. And if this doesn't work, I go back to prison anyway. I know. He looked at me, and I saw the weight of 7 years in his eyes. The weight of choices made and prices paid and futures that kept slipping away. Why are you doing this? You could walk away, right now. Go back to your life. Forget you ever met me. Because I don't want that life anymore. I moved closer, took his hand. Because you caught me when I fell. And now it's my turn. His thumb traced circles on my knuckles. This could go wrong in 100 ways. Then we'll be careful. Emma, I'm not asking you to do this alone. I held his gaze. I'm saying I'm with you. Whatever happens. He pulled me close, forehead against mine, and I felt him shake. Just slightly. Just enough to know he was as terrified as I was. Okay, he whispered. Okay. We called Detective Moss at 7:30, set up the meeting for the next night. Caleb would tell Marcus yes, Wear the wire. Get the confession. That night, back in the motel room, Caleb couldn't sit still. He paced, checked the window, paced again. Talk to me, I said. I spent 7 years keeping my head down, following rules, staying invisible. He stopped at the window. Now I'm walking back into the life I tried to leave, and I'm terrified I won't come back out. You will. You don't know that. No, but I believe it. I stood, crossed to him, and sometimes that's enough. He kissed me then, desperate and gentle and full of things we didn't have words for. When we pulled apart, he said, "If this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does," his voice cracked. "Thank you for seeing me, for not running. I'm not going anywhere," I promised. The next evening, Detective Moss wired Caleb in an unmarked van 3 blocks from the meeting point, an abandoned auto shop on the industrial edge of Portland. The wire was small, invisible under his shirt, but I saw the way Caleb's jaw was clenched, the way his hands kept flexing. "Remember," Moss said. "Get him talking. Admission of the warehouse plan. Admission he set you up 9 years ago if you can. Don't push too hard. And if anything feels wrong, you walk away. We'll be listening." Caleb nodded. I grabbed his hand before he left. "Come back to me. Always." He walked into the dark. I sat in the van with Moss and 2 other officers, headphones on, listening to static and footsteps and my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Then I heard Marcus's voice, clear as ice. "Took you long enough. So, we doing this or not?" And Caleb, steady and calm. "Yeah, we're doing this." "Smart man. Knew you'd come around. Now let me tell you exactly how this is gonna work." The wire cut out. Nothing but static. "What happened?" I tore off the headphones. "What's wrong?" Moss was already on her radio. "Signal lost. Move in. Now." They burst out of the van, running toward the auto shop. And I sat there in the darkness, alone, knowing that everything we'd planned had just fallen apart. I didn't wait in the van. I couldn't. Every second of static felt like Caleb dying, like Marcus finding the wire, like everything we'd fought for disintegrating into violence and regret. So I ran. Followed the officers toward the auto shop, my lungs burning, my mind screaming that I was too late. The building loomed ahead, corrugated metal and broken windows and the kind of darkness that swallows hope. The officers had their weapons drawn, moving in formation, and I hung back because I wasn't stupid but I couldn't leave. Then I heard it. A single gunshot. My world stopped. Detective Moss held up a fist. Everyone froze. Then voices, shouting, movement, the sound of something crashing. The officers burst through the door. I followed. Inside was chaos. Marcus on the ground, hands zip-tied behind his back, cursing and spitting. 2 other men I didn't recognize, also restrained. And Caleb, standing against the far wall, shirt torn, blood on his knuckles, but alive, breathing, whole. Our eyes met across the room. He'd made it. Detective Moss was talking, but I couldn't hear her. I was moving toward Caleb, and he was moving toward me. And when we collided, it was desperate and shaking and real. His arms wrapped around me like I was the only solid thing in the universe. "The wire?" He breathed against my hair. Marcus found it, ripped it off, but I got him talking first. Everything. The setup 9 years ago, the warehouse trap, all of it. They heard enough. The gunshot. Marcus's guy shot at the ceiling when the cops came in, trying to run. Caleb pulled back, cupped my face. "It's over. It's actually over." But it wasn't. Not yet. The next 72 hours were depositions and lawyers and Officer Williams sitting across from Caleb with a different expression. Not quite respecty, but something closer to acknowledgement. Marcus had confessed on tape. The warehouse owner corroborated the setup. Caleb's testimony, combined with Detective Moss's investigation, built a case that couldn't be ignored. Marcus went back to prison, this time for 15 to 20. And Caleb got something rare. Something precious. Officer Williams recommended early termination of parole supervision. A second chance at a second chance. When the paperwork came through, Caleb stood in that gray parole office and read it 3 times like he couldn't believe it was real. Then he walked outside, tilted his face toward the sky, and cried. I held him on the courthouse steps while strangers walked past, and I didn't care who saw. But freedom doesn't fix everything. Derek was still out there, arrested for violating the restraining order but released on bail. My mother still wasn't speaking to me. The coffee shop let me go. Too much drama, they said. My best friend Maya sent a text that just said, "I'm sorry," without elaborating on whether she was apologizing or saying goodbye. I'd lost pieces of my life, but I'd found something more important. Caleb got a job with a construction company, one that hired ex-convicts, gave them real wages, treated them like human beings rebuilding their lives. I started freelancing full-time, building a client base slowly, learning to exist outside the approval of people who'd never understood me anyway. We found a small house on the edge of Portland, nothing fancy. Peeling paint and a yard full of weeds, but it had a porch. And Caleb built a garden with his own hands, planters made from reclaimed wood, vegetables growing in neat rows, a place where life could take root. 6 months after Marcus went back to prison, my mother showed up unannounced. She stood on our porch, arms crossed, lips pressed thin, and I prepared for a fight. Instead, she said, "I don't understand your choices. I don't understand him. But I see that you're happy, and maybe that's enough." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a beginning. Caleb met her eyes and said, "I'll spend the rest of my life proving I deserve her faith in me." My mother nodded slowly. Then she left. We sat on the porch that evening, watching the sun set over Portland, Caleb's hand in mine. His tattoos were still there, the clock with no hands, the barbed wire, the names of people lost, but they didn't define him anymore. They were just part of his story. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. "Meeting me. All of this." I thought about the girl I'd been, the one who fainted on a treadmill, who played it safe, who let other people define what her life should look like. And I thought about who I'd become. "Never," I said. "Not once." He kissed my temple. "I don't deserve you. Stop saying that. You deserve everything you fought for." We sat in comfortable silence, watching the light fade into darkness. And I realized something. Redemption isn't a moment. It's not a court decision or a piece of paper or even a cleared name. It's the daily choice to be better than yesterday, to build something honest and real from the ruins of who you used to be. Caleb caught me when I fell, but we saved each other. And sometimes, that's all second chances really are. Two broken people choosing to rebuild together, one day at a time, until the past stops defining the future and love becomes the only truth that matters. If you made it to the end of this story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. And click the yellow bell to subscribe to the channel and support us. Keep the adventure going by clicking on the suggested video on your screen.